cannabis rule. It's worked very well. There's some medicinal users that have obviously been here, but for the most part, you guys have been great, and there's no reason to think that we're not going to be back here next year and having more and more film festivals and things like this. So I just wanted to give an extra little thank you to everybody for doing that. So I'm going to break my speech up into two parts here. The second part, I'm going to talk about all the different things that we're doing with the Cannabis Buyers Club and Hempology 101. But I wanted to just quickly reflect on what I thought were the 5 greatest challenges in the movement, and in a way the 5 what I think are 5 of the greatest opportunities or areas of work that we have yet. So I'm going to start with the media being a challenge. And for those of us that have been involved in the fight to re-legalize cannabis, the media has been instrumental in the campaign against the agricultural community. Because in essence, that's who we're standing up for, I believe, right now, is against these corporations and people that want to own, control, and exploit the world's natural resources and everyone on it. I believe I very much represent the agricultural community that believes in cooperating and in Mother Nature and family and all these values that I grew up with. And I'm a 7th-generation farmer on both sides. And so to deal with the media is not an easy thing, but it cannot be ignored. And I think for those people that want to stand up for their medical rights, for their human rights, for the planet, the media is the primary focus of this movement. That is how we often communicate, not only to the public, but to each other, and is the means by which information is understood, unfortunately, in many ways. Once something appears in the Times Columnist in Victoria, that's just how it is. You can't convince the public otherwise. And the media, unfortunately, has this very tight control over what is happening, and they're making sure that people like David Bratzer don't have the kind of voice that they need to have. And so I would encourage people to write letters, to call up the actual reporters, to call up the editors if there's bad reporting, or if there's a story that comes out that shows the police side and doesn't show anything from our side. We need to be relentless on these people. And phone calls are usually better than emails, although they complement each other. We certainly learned through our phone jam campaign last year with the federal government that calling up people and occupying their time is critical. And so I'll switch from media to politics, because the politicians that we're trying to get to, they listen to the media more than just about any single individual or their own people. And so getting to the media, to the politicians through the media is really important. And I think far too many of us spend time talking about politics and not actually doing something about it. And what we need to do is just find out when local meetings are being held with our member of parliament, to just go have lunch with some of those folks. Go to their rallies, become part of their group, and just have fun. Smoke some joints when they go to these things out front. Let them know who you are and why you're there, that you're an interested member of the community, but this is your focus. We need to do that to all the political parties, not just any single one. And another area that is critical, that Chris touched on this earlier, is religion. And it's a very difficult subject, but unfortunately the main groups, you could say, or groups of people that we're up against are fundamentalist religious types that are very controlling and quick to judge. And we need to learn how to engage in conversations with these people that help them relate to us.
That's right.
And just on a different note, when you're arguing for legalization with these different people, whether they're religious politicians, compare what we want to the wine industry. And there's many reasons to do that, especially when you're talking to someone who doesn't smoke herb. For one, everybody's familiar with the wine industry, and in particular the economic benefits that come from having small, independent wineries where we have bed and breakfast in the country, and people can do wine tours, and it really benefits local economies, and that's really critical if we want to argue that this plant needs to come back, is you know, the economic benefits of small production, small scale, you know, operations is really critical, and the wine industry has that. Secondly, a lot of people, like I said, they drink wine, and you know, if you're a person of cultural, or sorry, Christian descent, you know, that's obviously not going to send you to hell. So when you bring them down to that level, well, you know, you smoke wine, your religion thinks that's fine, and I want to try this. It really helps them relate to you when you use that model. And I would really want to encourage that. In particular, you know, in dealing with people that have religious prejudices, you just need to kind of bring it down to their level and relate to them. Another challenge that I find we have is with environmentalists and environmentalism who want to separate themselves at times from potheads, even though we're often saying the very same message. And so, you know, one of the groups that, or areas that we have to really work on are, you know, Greenpeace and the David Suzuki Foundation, and these organizations that claim to be, you know, doing good for the environment, but seem to be completely ignoring hemp, as if, you know, we can't stop cutting down trees because we don't have an alternative. Well, we've got the alternatives. They're sitting right here. This is hemp insulation from Nepal. This is fiberboard from China. The reason you don't see these things here is because they don't have trees left over there. So they use it all. They don't really let us get very much of it. But using these products for building materials, for your clothes, you know, you could build just about everything in a home except the electrical wiring and glass using hemp in the concrete foundation, you know, in part or in total. Plastics can be made out of it. You know, we should be, you know, as an environmental community, not only talking about these things, but buying these things. And it's very sad to see how environmental organizations just brush this aside as if we're a bunch of potheads. So we gotta go on with this. And the fifth spot that I think that we need to try to put some focus on is research. Both the good and the bad. There's lots of bad research that gets out there, and when that gets printed in the newspapers, like recent reports on schizophrenia, well, I shouldn't say recent, but constant reports on cannabis causing schizophrenia. You know, these are sorts of things that we not only have to call the media on and give our response to, but the research facilities around the world that print these things need to be, you know, told and informed that they're doing something wrong. And more importantly, I think we need to support as much as possible the good research that is being done. Now, switching a little bit to our future work, we tried last year to get into not only research at the Cannabis Buyers Club, but we're going to publish a peer-reviewed scientific journal. Because right now we have people like Dr. Hornby doing science, it's getting published in some ways, but it's not getting put through rigorous peer-reviewed journals. It appears sporadically in different places, but right now there is no cannabis-focused journal in the world. And when you're dealing with people like Dr. Hornby getting up in front of the courts, they not only need to know what they're talking about, but they need that science to have gone through the peer review in order to present their cases. They need that evidence. They can have the best arguments in the world, but if they don't have the science to back it up, then they're in a lot of trouble. We are hopefully going to be working with Dr. David Pate to create the world's first peer-reviewed cannabis scientific journal covering the full spectrum of work being done on everything from hemp to the different strains that have different benefits. And you know, we will be covering some on pharmaceutical cannabis. To be sure, we're not going to, you know, completely ignore work that is being done, but we're going to be focusing on the whole plant, because right now all the peer-reviewed journals are owned by drug companies. They're not publishing anything about smoking cannabis unless it's making it look bad. So we need to create our own journal in this case, and that's something that I'm going to be working on really hard over the next year.
Yeah.